Former President Donald Trump is holding a rally in Johnstown, Pennsylvania this afternoon. And tonight he'll deliver remarks at the Mums for Liberty Summit in Washington. CBS News campaign reporter Jake Rosen joins us from Johnstown, Pennsylvania. And Jake, we know Trump's facing criticism from some conservatives in his own party to comments Trump made to NBC about an amendment down in Florida which would overturn a 6-week abortion ban. Let's share that with our viewers before getting to you.
In Florida, the state that you are a resident of, there's an abortion-related amendment on the ballot to overturn the 6-week ban in Florida. How are you going to vote on that?
Well, I think the 6 week is too short. It has to be more time, and so and I've told them that I want more weeks.
So you'll vote in favor of the amendment?
I am going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks.
Like a bit of a waffle there, Jake. He also pledged to make either the government or insurance companies pay for everyone's IVF treatments if re-elected. What's more on some of the reaction to these policy positions?
Well, that's right, Errol, and thanks for having me. Here in Pennsylvania, I spoke up and down the line of people who were here hours early to hear the former president talk, and some of them said that they were supportive of whatever Donald Trump said, but some of them said that they were not wanting the federal government to get involved, just like Donald Trump says on abortion, on things like IVF. Take a listen.
I think the government needs to stay out of it, really. It should be what the woman wants. A man should be telling a woman what to do with her body.
No, I don't feel the federal government should be putting their nose in situations like that.
So as you heard right there, Errol, as Donald Trump has tried to tailor this line on abortion, including a referendum in his own state, which a Trump spokesperson clarified, Donald Trump did not say how he would vote on that Florida amendment. He just said a 6-week abortion ban is too short. Just on this IVF issue, some of his supporters are parroting that it should be left strictly to the states and the federal government should have nothing to do with it.
And in a swing state like Pennsylvania, these issues are crucial. The former president's also under scrutiny over this dispute between his campaign and officials at Arlington National Cemetery. There's now an image of the former president giving a thumbs up while standing behind a tombstone that's circulating online. We know that he was given permission by that soldier's family, but there's grave sites next to where he is. Other military families did not give permission to be a part of this. Is this causing any noticeable damage for his campaign?
Well, not in terms of the people that I spoke to. I spoke to a couple women, one of them you just saw there, who said that they really wanted Donald Trump to do those kinds of things and to show his strong support for the military. But at the same time, disrespecting the troops is something that J.D. Vance has already had to defend Donald Trump against in terms of Trump dodging military service in the past. And in this head-to-head between Tim Walz, like you just heard Nydia talk about, and J.D. Vance in terms of military service and exactly how J.D. Vance and Tim Walz both served, we'll have to see exactly how voters decide on this come November and if the issue continues to play in the next couple months.
Yeah, and we'll check back in with you as this rally gets underway. Jake Rosen, thanks so much.